She stood at the gate longer than she needed to. Not because she didn't know what she would find, but because some part of her still hoped she was wrong. The house looked the same from the outside. The faded blue paint, the small garden she had planted with her own hands, the crooked mailbox her husband never got around to fixing. Everything was familiar. Everything, except the lock. Her key didn't turn. At first, she thought her hands were shaking. Age had made them unsteady, especially after the fall. But when she tried again, slowly, carefully, it still refused. That's when she noticed it. The handle was new. Her breath caught in her throat. She stepped back, eyes scanning the door like it might explain itself. The old brass knob, scratched and worn from decades of use, was gone. In its place was something cold, polished, unfamiliar. Like she had never lived there at all. She pressed the doorbell. Silence. Once, twice. Nothing. The sun burned down on her shoulders, but she didn't move. She just stood there, staring at the door that used to open before she even knocked. Back when someone was waiting on the other side. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone and dialed the number she knew by heart. It rang. Once, twice. Then, "Hello?" Her voice cracked. "Beta, it's me. I'm outside." A pause. Not the kind filled with confusion. The kind filled with distance. "I think you have the wrong number," he said. Her heart skipped. "No, it's me. Your mother. The key. It's not working." Another pause. Longer this time. Then colder. "My mother passed away," he replied flatly. 3 weeks ago. The world didn't shatter. It didn't collapse. It just went quiet. So quiet she could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. "I was in the hospital," she whispered. "I just came back." "Don't call this number again." The line went dead. She stood there, phone still pressed to her ear, listening to nothing. And in that nothing, something inside her shifted. Not broke. Not yet. Changed. She didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of the house that had held every version of her life. Instead, she straightened her back, gripped her cane, and walked away. Each step heavier than the last, but steadier. That night, in a small rented room that smelled of detergent and old wood, she opened a file she hadn't touched in years. Inside were pieces of a life no one else remembered properly. Bills she had paid. Receipts she had saved. And at the bottom, the deed. Her name. Clear, undeniable. Still hers. She traced the ink slowly, like reminding herself she wasn't invisible. Not yet. Not ever. The next morning, she made a call. Not to her son. To someone who still understood the meaning of ownership. And dignity. Within days, everything began to move. Papers were filed. Locks were legally changed. And the house that had once shut her out, opened again. But not for her. For someone else, a quiet family. Respectful. Grateful. The kind that understood what a home actually was. A week later, her son stood at that same door. Confused. Angry. Powerless. Because this time, the key didn't belong to him. Her phone buzzed that evening. I didn't know. I was stressed. It wasn't my decision. Message after message. Excuses dressed as regret. She read them all. Then placed the phone face down. Silence, she realized, was not weakness. Sometimes, it was an answer. Days later, he came to see her. Not as a son, as someone who needed something. "Can we fix this?" he asked. She looked at him for a long moment. Really looked. And for the first time, she didn't see the little boy she raised. She saw a man who made a choice. So she nodded. "Yes," she said softly. Hope flickered in his eyes. Then she added, "We can fix it. But not by going back." She handed him a copy of the lease. Final. Signed. Unchangeable. "This," she said, "is what moving on looks like." He stood there holding the paper like it weighed more than it should. Because it did. It carried consequences. And truth. When he left, she didn't stop him. Didn't call after him. Didn't stand at the door. Instead, she turned back inside. To a space that was small, but hers. Completely. That evening, she set the table. Not for a family that forgot her, but for people who chose her. Laughter filled the room. Warm. Unforced. Real. And as she sat there, surrounded by voices that didn't treat her like a burden, she realized something simple. Something powerful. Home was never just a place. It was where you were seen. And for the first time in a long time, she was.